We're talking this week about, for the internal challenge in the dojo, is compassion meditation. And this is something that I've heard a few different versions of from different meditation teachers and different philosophies, but the basic idea is you're trying to increase your ability to be compassionate. And normally our meditation, especially for me in my own practice, is very dry. It's like, I want no thoughts, and that's the end of it. And the idea of using meditation to be more compassionate and open up your heart and really, be with people and to be with yourself, to have more compassion for yourself, is a level that is very important to be able to do, for sure. So I'll talk about the specific technique that I like to use when I do a compassion meditation, and you do not have to do that one. But I want to talk a little bit more broadly about the idea of visualization first. So visualization is, when I talk about meditation, it's not the same. A lot of people kind of lump it into the same thing. So some people, my Sifu used to say this all the time, in Michigan, people don't meditate as much in Michigan. It's a different set of sensibilities out there. And people would be like, well, meditation, that's like crystals and witchcraft and visualization and whatever else, and all this kind of, everything is kind of lumped into the same thing. And of course they have similarities and tangential connections, but when we talk about meditations, we're literally just talking about clearing your mind. And we talk about visualization, you're visualizing a thing, so your mind is not clear, but you can use a visualization to kind of hone your mind and focus on fewer things. So when you visualize, it's with your eyes closed usually, but you can do it with your eyes open. And you're just trying to actually have a picture in your mind. And there are some people who are born with I forget what it is. I talked about it a couple of months ago. It's got like a aphasia kind of suffix to it, but it's very difficult for these people to visualize, and so you might have to train yourself almost from scratch, like you're learning how to do this as if you were a baby, and that's okay. For a lot of people, it comes a little bit more naturally if you just close your eyes, which you can all do this right now, and just visualize an orange. And you see something that looks, hopefully a little bit more detailed than just an orange circle. You might see, the texture of the skin. Maybe you see the little like navel thing on it. Maybe you see like some lighting. And then if I tell you to peel the orange in your mind, you can probably see something that looks like the orange being peeled. And then if I tell you to take a bite of the orange, you might start salivating. And so the level, you can open your eyes, the level of detail in your visualization and the way that that starts to interact with your body is really key. And a strong visualization is oftentimes a little bit more involved than just an image. It can have a feeling, it can have a taste, it can have, that texture to it. And the more involved your meditation, the more involved your visualization is, the stronger it's going to be. And visualizations are a key component of a lot of different internal practices. So like a lot of energy work involves a lot of visualization. You might be visualizing energy flowing in the body, or you can replace energy with like water or fire. So we do this sometimes with Qigong, and it's great. I always say the same thing when we talk about that energy work. When you are visualizing, you want to feel it. So in Tai Chi, sometimes we'll do like some healing Qigong, and I like to visualize like water flowing through my body. And so whether you believe that there is actually a separate system of chi flowing through the meridians and it's like a thing that science can't measure, or you believe that it is basically the same thing as like the placebo effect, and your visualization is causing your body to feel better and maybe actually heal itself just through the power of your mind-body connection. However you believe that works, it works. And the placebo effect is a very well-studied example of this mind-body connection. So when you visualize something in a Qigong, for example, if you make it super, super detailed and so involved that your mind doesn't wander, that makes it more effective. So when you're doing your visualization practice, try to make it as detailed as possible. Try to make it as involved as possible. And I'm not saying necessarily that you're like playing a whole movie in your mind, although that could work depending on how you're doing it and what you're trying to do. I mean that you want to dive into it and make it just totally take over your consciousness and your awareness, and make it so interesting and be so connected to it that your mind doesn't wander. Kind of like in meditation, when your mind wanders, you can pull it back, but the strongest, best way to do it is to not let your mind wander in the first place. So let's talk more about how we would use visualization in the specific kind of meditation that we're working on this week, the compassion meditation. So I was doing this morning. The challenge is to do it every day this week. And what I like to do is to start with somebody who I very easily feel compassion for. And I usually like to start with my nephew, Emmy. He is this tall. He's tall actually for a year and a half. And he just started speaking recently. He's very cute, and he can kind of read, which is, I think, very impressive for his age. He can read like one word at a time. And probably he's just heard it repeated over and over again, but he's kind of doing it. And you see his face when he does this, and it's like magic. And his cheeks are like this, and half of the time he's just smiling like there's nothing better in the world. It's very easy to feel compassion for a tiny, cute baby, of course. A little bit harder to feel compassion for many of the people in our lives, but I start with him because I cannot help but feel love. And just, if I thought there was any ounce of danger headed this kid's way, I would run in front of a bus and do whatever. And so maybe you have somebody like that in your life, maybe not, but something close to it. The closest person that you can imagine who you really feel a strong connection and empathy, a compassion for, somebody who you love. And we start with them. And you feel the feeling that you get. So I'm holding this person's face, and maybe it's a moving picture, or maybe it's just a still image, but I have a very clear, detailed image of Emmy in my mind, and then I have the feeling that goes along with it. And sometimes there's actual language, and I'm thinking the word love or compassion, but really what we're trying to get at is beyond that language, identifying the feeling, and just like the feeling itself. And there is probably going to be some kind of a clear actual feeling in your body. For me, sometimes it's like a warm feeling in my chest. A lot of people say it's the same thing. It might be something different for you. Some people, you're visualizing this person and you just start to cry. Well, that's a feeling. That's like a physical thing that's happening. Okay, but you have that feeling. It's an actual physical sensation that you are pairing with this image of this person that you feel this ready, compassionate state for. And you would just hold that person in your mind for a few moments. Maybe you hold it for a minute or two, and then you move on to somebody else. And you don't go from this person to Hitler. You're like, I go from this person to somebody who I just don't feel quite as much compassion about, but I still like this person a lot. And so I'm feeling a little bit like I have to make this circle grow, right? And then you just try to add more and more people to this. And you'll end up, maybe you add, your whole family and all of your friends and the people you see at work, or, the people you don't like so much who cut you off on the freeway this morning, or, the entire state of California. And then you take it to other states that you don't like so much, like New York or whatever else. And then you try to get the whole world, and then eventually you got the whole universe. And that, the ability to visualize this is, again, a key component of it. And the stronger and more detailed your visualization, the better. What I find happens a lot of times is the mind wanders from the visualization, and it's like starting all over again. It's like, all right, so I got like 2 people away, and I got to start all over again with a baby, and then go again. But try to keep that kind of unbroken link with your visualization. So in a minute, we will sit and we'll actually start meditating. I'll talk you a little bit through this compassion meditation, and then you're just going to let it go and do a regular meditation. When we do the regular meditation, try to let go of your visualization. Now, you can use the visualization as a tool to refocus your mind, but when we talk about meditation in the sense of just letting go of all thoughts, getting to this state of mushin, that's what that wall scroll says, no mind, even the visualization you want to let go of. And we focus on the breath, and we focus on the feeling of the breath, and eventually even that you want to let go of. And I'm not saying that you have to stop breathing, but the more calm you get, the more your breath will start to deepen and slow down. And there will be times where you can hardly feel the breath at all, and that will make it easy. And there will be times where maybe you can just even let go of the feeling of the breath, and you're just left with this simultaneous experience of nothingness and everything. And you have this fully expansive but very clear mental state. So sit comfortably. I'm going to go over some details of how to sit. I love to sit on this little bench, and I know you guys don't have one of these, but it can be basically the same thing as these cushions. You can sit cross-legged, or you can sit on your knees. I do this because my hips don't cooperate with sitting cross-legged, but if you are more comfortable sitting cross-legged, I suggest you go for it. If you don't feel comfortable sitting cross-legged and you want to sit on your knees, you can also flip that cushion up so that it sits up a little bit taller. That might make it so that your legs are a little bit more comfortable. And again, if you have to do that during the meditation, it's not perfect, but it's better than, you know, seriously being hurt with your hips or your leg position. So that's legs. Cross-legged or kneeling, you don't want your knees to be high above your hips. If they're even with or below your hips, that's good, because then they won't fall asleep over the longer meditation that we're going to do tonight. Your back should be straight. So you want your shoulders rolled back and relaxed. You want your chin parallel to the ground, and you're not overly arching back or slouching forward. You have your spine just basically stacked up in a comfortable position. Close eyes. Your eyes are slightly raised up. There are many different positions that you can have for your eyes, but we like to slightly raise them up because that stops you from falling asleep, and it helps to associate this position with a raised consciousness instead of an everyday consciousness with your eyes forward, or kind of a sleepy consciousness with your eyes down. And the position of your hands should kind of support the position of your shoulders. So you want your hands upturned and at the hips. They can be together with one palm underneath the other hand, or you can have them separate from each other. But try not to let your hands slide down, because that'll cause you to slouch. So from here, we'll start off with a couple of deep breaths, and then we'll go into a visualization for your compassion meditation. Start with all the breath out. Breathe in through the nose. Hold it for a few seconds, and then breathe out. Always breathe in through the nose. Out can be through the nose or the mouth. And breathe from the belly, using your diaphragm. So your breath fills from the bottom up, then empties from the top down. So just take a couple more deep breaths at your own pace. Really focusing in on that feeling, that sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Allow your mind to calm, become more quiet, fewer thoughts. It's kind of like you're readying the canvas for your visualization. You'll end up with just a blank image of nothing in your mind. So now we'll begin this visualization, and you choose somebody And you don't have to choose any particular person. I'm sure that nobody will be offended. Just the most readily available person who you can feel compassion for. They don't have to be somebody currently in your life, but image of a human. It could even be a pet, someone that you feel compassion for easily. And again, try to make that image of that person detailed. You can imagine them making a facial expression that helps you feel compassion about them. And now, with that visualization held in your mind, that mental image, allow yourself to feel. You don't have to force anything. You're not making yourself wrong if you don't have any specific kind of feeling, but just see what's there. And if there's a physical sensation that goes along with it, great. Just keep that visual and that feeling for a couple of breaths. And when you're ready, you can start to expand that circle of compassion. You can add somebody else. Maybe you let go of your visualization of the first person, you replace it. Maybe you put them both in the same room together. Make sure you carry that feeling with you. That love, that physical feeling. Hold that person in your mind for a few breaths. Your mind wanders, just come back to that same visualization, reconnecting. That builds the habit of compassionate thinking, it builds the connections in your mind, physically restructuring those neural connections. When you're ready, you can add somebody else or move on. You might be out of the range of people who you naturally feel compassion for. You might need to kind of invite that feeling back in. I'll give you a little bit of a trick or a shortcut if you need it. If you're struggling to feel compassion for this person, try to imagine what this person looked like as a baby. They're an infant, they're basically helpless, they're tiny. It's hard not to feel some amount of compassion for somebody as a baby. And then you can imagine them grown up, keep that same sensation. And whatever comes up is right. You might feel some kind of a greater, more specific emotion associated with somebody. Just let it come. And you can go on at your own pace, continue to widen this circle and add more people. Continue holding that feeling, compassionate love. Try to widen that circle as far as you can. And then when you're ready, you can just gently let that go. You can also transition by turning that compassion towards yourself. Let that feeling just completely overwhelm and absorb your whole being. And feel again that expansive awareness as you're holding the whole world or the whole universe inside you. Then you can just let go of any specific thoughts. When thoughts come, you can just let them go. Turn back to the breath. Whenever your mind wanders, bring it back. If you want to return to the compassion meditation, you can do that for a time. Remember, if your mind does wander, this is natural. It's a part of meditation. So hold that compassion for yourself. You're allowed to be human. You're allowed to have thoughts. You can just recognize it as a thought without judgment, without self-judgment. Let it go. Continue doing that as often as you need for the rest of the meditation.